Uh, Now, agreed that there was a slight downside opening for Nifty. Last time when we were seeing the important mark of 10,360, 370 was taken out and it was trying to reach higher. All we tried to see, it reached higher and then it closed also way above the resistance mark. Now something interesting which happened today morning, right away there was a big gap down. So prior it was basically closed at 10,388 and today it opens straight away 30-40 points down and it is well below the resistance point. So this is what we need to understand. If it is well below the resistance point, it will face now again the same resistance going ahead around this 10,367 mark. That is today's high, right? So that is pretty much clear. Now, we need to understand, which we also told last time, the amount of candles, the body which is there of each of these candles are not big enough, right? It did move up slowly and steadily, but the candle bodies were not good enough. After that, there was a small tiny green candle above the resistance level. Now today's gap down opening, and if it is not able to breach this resistance level of 10,368, that is today's high, a good downfall in Nifty can be seen to 10,300, right? So straight away 10,300 is there on the cards. That is roughly around 40-50 points from here. Easily there is a downfall because these bodies were not good enough to hold while it was going up. And why I'm trying to say 10,300 or 320, because this is where multiple lows were made. Okay, so when I put out a support line for Nifty, at least downside to 10,310 is easily possible today itself on intraday basis. After this important milestone level is around this 10,230 to 50 where the gap was built. Okay, so first, if it is not able to breach today's high, straight away 10,300, and if falling continues, it can bring him down by 100 points from current levels. So 100 points from current level will bring Nifty down to 10,250, 260 odd points, which is exactly in this gap zone, right? So we cannot rule out now a downside spiral coming up for Nifty because it is now opened gap down prior to the resistance level. This is an important change or shift which has happened in Nifty. Now when I go and see on the 15-minute chart to understand what is happening right from morning. So if I see over here, which was very interesting, our resistance was continuously around this zone of 10,360, 367 mark. Apart from that, there was a gap up opening which had happened and it zoomed higher. Now today's gap down was exactly below the gap level which was formed prior. It also tested the gap or the same high twice in first half an hour session, and now it is trying to go on the downward side. So as we are trying to figure out, first the resistance level will remain same, 10,360, 375 mark, and important things to watch now is straight away a downfall till 10,300 is likely. Now if you see 10,300 on the minor scale or 15-minute chart, as I said, this 10,310 is important because it was that point where the reversal took place, number one. Number two, multiple supports were taken over here, and number three, the gap was also being formed around this zone, right? So straight away downside is possible for Nifty because it has opened below the important resistance mark. Second, a straight away downfall of 50-60 points from here is easily likely for today's session, right? So the entire structure which was trying to be bullish has now tried to become weak, and it now cannot become bullish unless and until it fills this gap of today's gap down. Till then we will be bearish even after the expiry. If the gap is not been filled up, then you will find a downward trajectory for Nifty as the entire structure on the daily side seems to be have changed. So this is how Nifty is panning out, where we were trying to be little bullish side on Nifty after this green move, but it is now trying to change in the reverse direction. Bank Nifty was never a big upside was not there or seen in Bank Nifty because it moved sideways all throughout the day. Now let us understand, is something different has happened over here in Bank Nifty or no? All I remember is last couple of days where it went all the way down to the point of 25,618, where were the prior highs were also over there. It basically bounced back or reversed directly from that level, right? So one important mark was that, and second, the prior resistances which were there, which was around this 10,000, 25,700 mark, is already been breached. So one thing which is important over here, if we see the first or the last support that it has taken, first it was the resistance point, and the last support taken was 25,618. Okay, so unless this 25,618 doesn't get breached, it will not go on the downside. Now, important point for Bank Nifty, even if it breaches this, again there is multiple supports coming along at the lower levels. So it will enter in this entire gap zone which is there on the lower level, which is around 25,300, and then you have 25,450, right? So a free fall in Bank Nifty is not possible. It might be possible for 50-60 points in Nifty, but not in Bank Nifty. So Bank Nifty might go down, but it has to stop throughout the way. So first mark will be around this 25,600, and then it comes down around 150 points from here, 25,450 or so, and then it enters in this gap zone. So a quick downfall is not possible in Bank Nifty, and it might go slightly on the sideways or might bounce back also from these levels. So let's see what happens. Only thing that is seen in Bank Nifty, it also opened gap down and now trying to inch higher. So let's see on the minor front for 15 minutes. One thing is pretty clear, that it is trying to bridge the gap which is being formed. So if I am seeing Bank Nifty, I agree that it opened gap down, but then as I said, it is trying to fill the gap, right? So Nifty is not trying to fill the gap. Bank Nifty is trying to fill the gap. Now the important point to understand, we are not yet bullish on Bank Nifty because the higher resistance are still intact, right? So 25,800 where the selling took place, and yesterday multiple times it has tested 25,800. So even if it fills the gap, there is no sign of bullishness on Bank Nifty, and all we need to understand, the higher resistance is broken, then only you can see upside for Bank Nifty. Now, the point which we are trying to make, agreed that Bank Nifty is not that weak and it is trying to pull up and fill the gap. This will provide support to Nifty as well. So seems to be that it can be a range bound session, but if we see Bank Nifty to crack down, the downfall is not huge. First, it will find support where last time also it took a support and went higher. So the support will be around 25,600 for today's session, right? So this is an important mark, and it will try to fill up the gap of 25,785 or yesterday's close is what you can take. It can come and it can fill the gap. Then only it will find some amount of resistance. Now let's see on the Nifty front or Bank Nifty front what's happening from gainers and losers side. If I go and see the gainers and losers, has the scripts changed or it is yet the same? So what I see over here, again the Axis Bank from the banking pack is trying to provide support to Bank Nifty. Apart from that, there are none of the other banks which are there over here. Second, if I see L&T again, the construction pack where it is trying to come back. Pharma, as in Lupin and Aurobindo Pharma, both which have cracked a lot, are now trying to find some kind of reversals. Now if you see, Aurobindo Pharma was gainer on Friday as well. Like Lupin was also there, and they have continued their rally from the lower sides. So some kind of buying is coming in Aurobindo and Lupin or the pharma side. Reliance is trying to be high, remaining strong, and then it is also providing support to Nifty. So all in all, nothing big has changed, and not new sectors have not come in. So pharma is still performing and construction is still there. Out of bank, only the Axis Bank is out there trying to provide some kind of support. When I see the loser section, the entire oil pack is down. So Hind Petro, IOC, BPCL, all of them are down on back of the oil meeting which is been scheduled for incoming days or so. So all these segments where the oil is having an upper hand, so all these OMCs are down. Apart from that, oil marketing company, apart from that, you have Power Grid, and then you have Bajaj Finance, which is also down. So the finance segment is not doing that great. Bajaj Finance now from couple of days is trying to remain weak. Banking side, IndusInd Bank and SBI is not providing support, right? So Bank Nifty is getting some support, but not from these two pack. Now, what I see, oil marketing companies, if they are cracking, then you will find Asian Paint and those stocks also going down, not providing any support to Nifty. So Nifty trying to be range bound or flat, and Bank Nifty is trying to fill the gap, and it might fill the gap and might find reversals at the end of the day. Okay, so higher highs for Bank Nifty is not possible unless it breaches 25,835. Okay. Now, if you go out and see some of the stocks, let's say if you want to see HDFC Bank, let's see some of the heavyweights, whether they are providing support in banking segment or no. So if I see HDFC Bank, actually it has opened gap down and made multiple highs, right? So HDFC Bank is not providing support. When I see ICICI Bank, same stays for ICICI Bank. The only difference which I see in ICICI Bank, it opens down and it is trying to sustain there. That is the only difference which is there in ICICI Bank. So gap down opening and then buying took place. So there is some amount of positiveness in ICICI Bank. Apart from that, it is not trying to go higher. Then you have SBI, which we have already seen in the loser segment. So SBI is not performing well. The gap down has happened in SBI. That is why you can see a smaller gap down in Bank Nifty as well. So HDFC Bank and SBI forming gap downs has basically brought Bank Nifty down. If I go and see Axis Bank, where it was trying to provide some support to Nifty, and this is where the Bank Nifty got support from. So after opening down, it reversed everything and it is now trying to inch higher, right? So Axis Bank is the only guy who is trying to provide support, not Yes Bank, not ICICI or HDFC Bank. IndusInd Bank, as we have already seen in the list, so it might not also provide that great support. Here it is. From the highs, it is now correcting and it is now coming down swiftly, right? So banking pack, only Axis Bank and ICICI are the one who is providing support. So if they try to reverse or stop going up, you can find further downfall in Bank Nifty. For Nifty, let's see some of the pack like ALT, which has remained strong now from a couple of sessions. Now, if I see over here, LNT from the base where the gap had happened prior, 1210, it is remaining range bound, but today there is a gap up session which has happened in LT as well. It opened gap up and selling took place, but it is trying to defend its gap and trying to inch higher. So LNT is trying to provide support. Let's see ITC. ITC has remained weak, but from bottom it has corrected. From bottom it has formed a good reversal, as you can see over here. Apart from that, then it has remained around this 255 odd levels, and then today what we see is some kind of selling taking place in ITC, but overall it is trying to now move from lower side and trying to inch higher. So ITC is there. Now Reliance, which has formed fresh highs, we need to understand whether they can provide further support or no, or reversals can be seen in Reliance. Now, if you see Reliance, even on the minor front, it happens gap up, comes down, again it happens gap up, fills the gap, sustains, and again goes higher. What happened today morning also, it opened down and then it filled the gap and it is now trying to go further high. So Reliance is the only guy who's providing good amount of support along with L&T and some of the pharma packs. So let's look at Oro Pharma. Aurobindo and Lupin, they have corrected a lot. So after a good correction, if you see, so from the top of around 800, they have corrected one side and have moved to around the 690 pack. And now now they go sideways, and now there is some kind of upwardness seen in pharmas. Okay, so Aurobindo Pharma result was good, but if I see over here, the upside can be capped around the 730 or around the same level of 725, where prior selling has taken place. Right, so but right from bottom, if you see 690, it has gone up quite a lot in last 2-3 trading sessions. So pharma is finding, especially Aurobindo Pharma. And if we see Lupin, Lupin has also corrected after the FDA issue, but now what we see in Lupin case as well, you're trying to see Lupin always opening little bit of gap up every time and trying to sustain some of the gains. Right, so Lupin is providing support. So there are pharma as well as the other guys who are trying to provide support. L&T not ITC, but Reliance is there, right? And HDFC Bank doesn't seem to be strong. Let's see HDFC, the housing part, the only HDFC, is he providing support or no? So if I see HDFC also, it is remaining range bound and it is more on the downside. So even HDFCs are not providing any kind of support to Nifty. So it's only Reliance and some of the pharma packs which are seemingly very strong and trying to go higher. Now the trade which you can understand over here, let's say even HDFC, there was a large selling which took place. So HDFC seems to be corrected and now it is trying to reverse. So some of the stocks have corrected a lot. So Lupin, Arvindo Pharma, HDFC, this is where you see correction. So they can become a good buys going ahead. And now after this, let's say if I see all the oil marketing companies. So if I see IOC, the back of oil, obviously the correction will take place. If you see right from the top, the correction is already in place. But now again, after a good Moribazu trying to sustain or go higher than 400 or 399, again selling took place right in the morning, right? So these counters will remain weak back of the oil, and IOC has full potential if it breaches this level of 387 to straight away test again 368 or so. So there is a good potential of downside in IOC. If I go and look BPCL, it seemed to be one of the strongest among all the three oil marketing. This is where you see BPCL. BPCL is also corrected, but if I see BPCL, it is now on a strong foothold rather than IOC. So agreed that BPCL will also correct a bit, but it might find some support around these levels. IOC might have a free fall, right? So always a kind of a pair trade where you can buy BPCL and sell IOC, that can be placed. Let's see Hind Petro. So when I go and see HPCL, HPCL in a couple of last session, I think it was in the gainers list, and this is why you can see over here continuous selling took place and then it tried to reverse some of the selling, and it was a good upside which had taken place. Now because of the swift up move which has already happened in HPCL, it might find a little bit of selling on the downside as well. But all I see in HP and BP, there is no chance of free fall, but IOC has a full chance of free fall. So these will find support. So I would rank BPCL at the top, then HP, and then IOC if they try to go down. Also, if oil recuperates or remains lower levels, first guy to move up the block will be BPCL. So the ranking seems to be decent enough when I look at the oil marketing companies. So I would suggest to look at those stocks which have already corrected, and if Nifty corrects, they might not go down further. It might go down, but not on the higher side. Let's say if we go out for Z, so Z has not corrected, it is just trying to inch higher, right? And if we find correction coming in these kind of counters like Reliance, Z, which is flying high right now, but if Nifty corrects, these can be a good contenders to buy. Okay, so Z and Reliance are flying high. Let's say Ultratech. If I see Ultratech, it has cracked back of the news, but if you see after that gap down move, it has now sustained over there and trying to be in that gap range. So even if Ultratech corrects at the lower levels, it can be a good formations to buy. Okay, so Arvindo Pharma, Ultratech, and the HDFC Limited, those are the stocks which you should look out for where the results were good and it has corrected a lot, right? And if Nifty corrects further, these stocks might not go down more. This is the plus point of these stocks where the results are good and the correction might come. Let's say even Asian Paint, if you look from paint point of view. So if I'm looking Asian Paint, so Asian Paint has remained weak because of the oil segment. But if I see over here, after the result, the selling took place, a good bounce happened, but then it could not sustain the higher levels of 1200 or so. And it is trying to inch down. So if oil plans a new trajectory, it is clear that Asian Paint can go down to the levels of 1090 or maybe to downward levels of 1050 or so. So these can be a good range of buys for Asian Paint, and if it tries to crack down. If Asian Paint is going down, more or less Pidilite should also go down. Let's go and see what's happening on Pidilite. And what I see, which is little different on the Pidilite chart and which is strange. So Pidilite is trying to inch higher or make a new high, and Asian Paint is trying to go down. Now, what does this signify? Because already a good selling had taken place in Pidilite prior to the result. So after the expiry, I can see Pidilite inching down and Asian Paint not going down further. So if oil gets a rally on the upside, I will see Pidilite going down fast compared to Asian Paint. So this is what you should understand. Okay, so the corrected stocks might not go down faster. Last time when the oil inched high, you can see right from 865, it came down to 780 or so. Right, so a good 10-15% fall is easily likely in Pidilite again. This time, if oil goes high, Asian Paint will also correct, but I think Pidilite will correct further or more compared to Asian Paints. So again, that can be a good pair trade. Let's take some IT stocks. So Infi on back of the buyback, obviously it will try to inch higher. So it is better we try to remain sideways on those stocks. And if you see over here from where the selling took place, it has inched higher slowly and steadily to the higher range, right? So I would not go out and buy Infosys at these odd levels, even if it corrects, because there is no strength in the fundamental point of view. The earnings growth are not there. So it is better that we wait on IT front, especially for Infi, and not go out and trade. Now, when we see Wipro, the buyback thing is already done. And if you see Wipro, it had spiked at 304 or so, remained over there, and then you can see a downward trajectory after the buyback, right? So the buyback numbers have been out for Wipro, and now it is trying to go down. So same things will happen for Infosys as well, but it's better to remain out of these pockets where these kind of news are already in way. Okay, so that's Wipro, and if you see TCS, where buyback is already done, and it has also made fresh highs, and all I see TCS as well, it was strong enough, trying to inch towards its 52-week high, but if you see now what happened to TCS, the same stuff. It is now gone sideways, trying to make the same highs. A good potential downside is there. Now, the only thing which can support IT pack is the H1B visa issues, but apart from that, the currency, right? So if USD INR tries to go up, it can provide or depreciate, it can provide further strength to IT pack. Okay, so if I go and see, let's say even on the weekly side, to understand little bit about the flow of our currency. So 68.5, where it corrected a lot, it moved down all the way to 63.5, and it remained down, and then all of a sudden it moved above 64.23. So if you find over here a continuous selling followed by buying, and then it remained sideways and suddenly it spiked above 64.16. So obviously this becomes a good support on the downside, but after that we see a good spike, okay, around the 65.58. Now it is trying to remain range bound, but all we can understand, if Fed will increase their rates, okay, coming ahead, where the Fed meeting is scheduled in December, there is easy likely for it to come to these levels of 66 or so, because that was the point where the gap down has happened, right? So if it tries to sustain here and then it tries to again inch higher, a rally in dollar will basically bring Indian rupee to 66, and this can provide further support to IT stocks. Now, if you want IT stocks, I think it is better to go for TCS, which is strongest among the pack. So if it corrects in the correction and we are looking out for dollar move to happen upwards, I think we can go out and buy TCS, and then you can sell the other IT pack. Don't sell Infosys. You can look for Wipro, or let's say even Tech Mahindra. The results were not that great, and we can basically look out for these kind of other IT where you can sell those stocks if you want to do pair trading, right? So Wipro can be one of the guy, and if you see Tech Mahindra also, it is now trying to inch higher, right? So vis-a-vis TCS, if TCS starts cracking, okay, and if you want to buy TCS, then you can look out to sell some of the other counterparts, but don't try to mess with Infosys because the buyback thing is still going on, right? So this is what you need to keep in mind. So more or less this is what it is, and if we see the crude trajectory there also, whether anything different has happened over there or no. So the OPEC meeting is being scheduled, Oil has already gone up. Let's see whether we can find some of the trend by just seeing whether oil can do something different or not. So what I see over here, there has been a huge downfall which we had seen in the oil prior, and all I see is the important resistance mark around the 61 mark, right? So when I put a resistance point around here, it comes back over here. It has never gone beyond that 54 mark if I see. So there were two marks if you go back and see. So one was this where the selling took place, a good resistance point was there, and then lately it was 54 mark which was very important. So 54.5 and 60 point or 61 was the important mark. Now when I go ahead and see, it crossed 54 in no time. Okay, so it crossed 54. This is where it is trying to cross 54. So one, it crossed 54, and now what do I see? I know that there will be resistance around the 60.6 kind of one. Okay, so when I go out and now see, it is now trying to go around this range where the resistance point is there. And if you see, the flow of up move was very fast, right? So it cannot just breach this 60 and go high. It might find resistance for some time, might go sideways in this band of 56 to 60, and after the crossing of 60 there is easy likeliness of 75, 77 on the card, right? So I am seeing oil to go further up after it sustains above 61.5. so this is like WTI crude levels which I am talking about, right? So this is where you need to understand it might cross higher from the resistance level, and then it can go on the upper side. So oil marketing companies and even the other companies like Asian Paint, Pidilite might face some amount of corrections, and if oil tries to go higher, deficits of India can increase and the Indian market can also come down, right? So for December, this will be very important point to understand if market cracks, right? So that is more or less what we see from oil. So from Nifty point of view, it is now trying to inch a little high right from the morning. And the important point, as I said, is today's day high. If it tries to go higher than that, then you can see upside for Nifty. When we see Bank Nifty, on Bank Nifty front, it is already filling up the gap. So Bank Nifty is trying to be strong, right? So that's it. It might remain a range bound day. And even if Bank Nifty cracks, the downsides are not much now. It might come down to the lower levels which had hit prior 25,630, right? But now it tries to remain range bound or maybe going higher towards the 25,800 zone, right? So that's it for today. So thank you for joining us, and we can join in tomorrow to understand more about the markets.